Adam Schefter,
Not really.
I don't cite him too much unless it's like breaking NFL news. I find him to be a corporate shill. But I thought he had a really good point here. He reported that USC's running back coach, Keel McDonald, is heading to the Chargers with Harbaugh to do the same job.
Okay.
And I've noticed this too, so I was glad he tweeted this out. He said a trend that has emerged this winter. Many college coaches are tired of the portal, the NIL money, and the new NCAA world and would prefer to work in the NFL. I know Bill O'Brien just bounced from Ohio State to BC and he stayed in college football, but Schefter's right here. There's a lot of position coaches that are jumping ship and getting the hell out of it. I don't know how you navigate this world. This sport's broken, and I think when we debate these, is it 14? Is it 16? Do we go back to 4? Should we let the computers do it and get to 2? Wherever you're at on that argument, what we can all agree on, I don't think this is even debatable. What we're seeing in that sport is no leadership.
No.
They have
there hasn't
no
been ever really
real leadership. They can't. They're commissioned by 5 people.
Yeah.
And then they allow like group of 5 people to be in the room, but they don't really care about their voices. And then it's the networks. So it's 8 people plus some committee members plus some network heads. And that's what's running the sport. It is a broken sport because they don't have clear and fundamental leadership. Sankey thinks he's the guy. And largely you could say he's the guy of the guys, but he's not the guy. Petiti is also in this category because the Big Ten and the SEC are the biggest of dogs.
Sure.
But they're suffering from no leadership. And I said this when he announced it, and I'm going to say it again. If this man chooses to really lock in the way he did as a coach in his next profession, even though he's old, he can be one of the best. This sport, and I cannot believe I'm saying this out loud, Nick Saban needs to be the college football czar.
Yep.
Nick Saban needs to fix this sport. Nick Saban knows, and I actually believe this. I think Nick Saban would do what is right by the sport. He got out of it because, well, he wasn't feeling it as much at his age. He also talked about having to recruit his own roster every year, dealing with the NIL stuff, and just the ever-changing landscape of the sport. It even got to him eventually, but he still wants to be attached to it. He chimed in this morning. It's basically acknowledging what we're talking about. It is a broken situation.
Saying they're not called student athletes.
They're not student athletes anymore, and he's not wrong there. I'd argue they haven't been for a long, long time, but now that the money's public, we know it.
Right.
You need leadership. If there's anything I have learned through watching this, as much as I love this sport, and I love it, I talk about it probably too much for people. They are suffering from no leadership, and you see it every time they meet.
Yeah, I think one. I love that idea. I absolutely do. And we were talking about Calipari last hour in how he's looked back on, and he embraced the one and done, kind of really pushed the one and done, but then all of a sudden couldn't keep up with it. The argument for Saban is the opposite. Is Saban did it the old way, he did it the hush way, and he did it the legit way. Like, he's won at all stages. He's won natties at all stages. Dealt with all the different, whether it's BCS or college football playoff 4 teams or whatever it's going to be. He's dealt with all of it, and he's won. He's had to recruit his own roster. He's had number 1 recruiting classes. He has seen it all. And if you need somebody that's seen it all, do it. Because right now, this is where I think kind of Sankey and Petiti, this is where it gets kind of fishy. They're going into no man's land. They're going into a world that they don't know yet. You know, they want 7 teams in each of their conference to get in. What happens on the year where their conference is very, very top heavy?
Well, that's been the Big Ten, though.
Right.
Like, people don't want to say that out loud. That's been the Big Ten for some
Exactly.
time now. You've had Michigan and Ohio State. And, yeah, you've had a couple.
Penn State flirts, Wisconsin flirts.
Yeah,
and
Michigan State might flirt.
Right.
But those are coming and going. They're not consistent enough. Penn State's been a good program. But Franklin can't win this big game. And you look at his record. And I said this year that them and Washington were kind of neck and neck. Penn State's schedule. They take care of the Patsies. They can't win. They're like that in-between player who's kind of too good for the G League,
right?
But not quite an NBA guy. And he's like stuck in this sports purgatory.
Right.
That's kind of what Penn State's been.
And so what is the Big 10 gonna do when they push this to 14 to try to get 7 teams in, 6 teams in, and they get 3 teams in, and the Big 12 is like, "Oh, we snuck 5 teams in this year." Boy, that's gonna piss them off real bad, and it ain't nobody's fault but yours.
So if I gave you an opportunity to hire Nick Saban as the Czar, the Goodell, the Adam Silver,
Commissioner.
do you think he would do a good job? Is that somebody you'd
Yes.
like?
Yeah. I think he genuinely cares for, appreciates the history of the sport. He was in all sorts of different, he coached his way up just like a lot of guys did. Several different stops along the way, small colleges into bigger colleges, and eventually the biggest one. Um, but he, I think, as much as anybody, would do things and make decisions what he genuinely thought was best for the sport overall.
And to your point, Sprague, earlier you were talking about how it's sexier for guys to leave college and go to the NFL. That's why Harbaugh's gone. That's why Saban's gone. You know, I don't think Herb's coming back.
Oh
Like
no, that
these
ship
like
has
the
gotta
like
be
these
sold.
old guys, like they're done. They're gone. This is a Dan Lanning type game now because they're young enough to grow up in the we know everybody's getting the McDonald's bag. We know how this works. And they are more down to do that grind.
Well,
The old guys like doing it behind the scenes. They don't like being exposed. And so I think you need, as these young guys are going to infiltrate and get higher up in the ranks and start winning natties and stuff like that, you need somebody that kind of understood how you got here to be on top.
I think the tough thing with that though is like you mentioned Dan Lanning. He's a good
Mhm.
example locally. He's recruiting at an elite level.
Mhm.
He's wired for it. He's younger.
He's got the money, obviously that helps, but he's embraced the NIL
Well,
to
but-
where all these older dudes are like, man, I hate this.
Yeah, yes, some of the older people are getting out of the game, but to me it's not just age. It's your collectives. Right? It's
Yeah.
not only are you recruiting other players on other teams, high school players and your own roster, you also have to be internally saying, is our NIL collective together enough?
Right.
Is are we organized? Like to say out loud to you guys, Louisville's collective is better than Florida's?
That's insane.
It's
You're lying.
nuts. No, it is. They are more organized and structured at Louisville for their NIL portal
For
stuff.
all athletics.
For the NIL collective, they are more together
That's
than
insane.
Florida.
That's insane.
You've seen it. Louisville's come up, they get to their title game. Florida, they're in the dumps.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of the bottom of the barrel of the SEC, and that's a school I grew up seeing nothing but success
And they
with.
just hit the rankings in college basketball and lost last night.
That's not
Or
it's
2
not
nights ago.
just a coaching thing. Coaching is a massive part of that. I'm not trying to downplay it.
Right.
But that is another part of this world is,
Yeah.
hey, do we have our S together in this department? Because if we don't, this other school is going to kick our ass and they're still going to take some of our guys or get guys that we want with ours.